everyone, I'm Liz. I'm a mindset coach. How you doing today? I want to talk about those dissociated parts, those soul fragments that we talk about. When you do quantum rewire work with me, I talk to your superconscious mind, your subconscious mind, and your conscious mind. And I also talk to the parts. I muscle test to count how many parts. And I want to remind you that when you're triggered, bothered, pissed off, in a rage, angry, murderous, suicidal, anything that doesn't serve you, usually it's a part acting up. The point here being is that I think we were raised to believe that we have a monologue personality. We just have one personality. And when something's acting up, it's just simply, a bad memory coming up that we're triggered by. There's a story, I think the Cherokee tell it. A lot of people source this story, but it's the idea of the two wolves, the two dogs. Like you have one on one shoulder telling you, rah, 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 telling you to do something bad. You have rah on the other shoulder telling you to do something good. And they ask the Native American, which one wins? And he says it's the one you feed. I'm not always down with that because I feel like sometimes that can represent our parts. And I think it's really good to treat our parts really kindly and well. We're going to talk about that. So I think it's not good to squish them down and tell them to shut up and be ashamed of them and tell them to be quiet, tell them to go to hell. It's really good to work with them and treat them honorably, which we're going to talk about. The work I'm talking about and how I've developed working with the parts is based on a lot of different work, my own shamanic practitioner soul retrieval work. And originally back in 2012, I worked with a woman named Dosick. She has a system she calls soul memory discovery. That's when I first was like, what? Parts? What? Inner child? Inner self? Shadow self? So she called it soul memory discovery. And I remember doing sessions with her. And I remember thinking, oh, this is like shamanism, soul retrieval without the rattles and the feathers. And it's exactly what it is. And she has a great system for returning soul parts. Most of the systems I've learned over the last 10 years do one or two parts. Even when I was a shamanic practitioner more actively, I would have someone on the table for an hour and a half, charge them $180, and we might get one or two souls retrieved. We would do other healing work too, but the system I have now, you can do 32 if you need to. So the work comes out of the Theory and Treatment of Your Personality by Dr. Garry Flint. This is quite a psychological tome if you want to look at that. Serious psychological grammar. I'm going to rewrite this for people who don't want to learn the grammar of psychology, who just want to feel better. And then a book who is written in such a manner by Richard Schwartz called No Bad Parts. This is a great book. I have it on my Kindle, so no reason to show you, but this book in a very gentle way describes the parts, how they act, how they behave, how to work with them, and even has great meditation. So if you don't want to have sessions with me or coach with me, I would get that book and do those meditations and you'll be fine. You could get Garry Flint's book and do these. He teaches this whole book is so that you can do it yourself. It's more involved and more detailed and maybe perhaps more thorough than No Bad Parts, but both books are really good. The other alternative you have is Colette Streicher. She has what she calls the MAP Institute, and I'll put her description stuff in the description box below. Also, I have a colleague named Renee Hawkins who does the work with me. We kind of co-discovered it, kind of like Wallace and Darwin at the same time. And she called it quantum rewiring, and she doesn't mind if I use the name. So we both do that kind of work. I also, based on my Reiki master background, my shamanic background, I'm in the Four Winds Society. I base my work on the emotion code and use the use of muscle testing as a kinesiology device to get to my subconscious readout of how many parts we're talking about. You can really do that. It's so cool. Doing divination work like throwing cocoa leaves, bones, cards, or using a pendulum, or using muscle testing, I find very useful. Muscle testing this way is very fast. I actually have a class on this. So I want to talk to you about something. We are taught to think that we're just one personality, that we have a mono personality, that we just have one personality, and if parts of us are acting up, that part that's acting up, was acting out, it's triggered, it's mad, it's angry, it's upset, it's sad, it's lonely, it's crying out, it wants a cookie, it wants to overeat, it wants to drink, it wants to drug, it wants to sex, whatever it wants to do. We just think, oh, we got to take control. We have to take control of that part. We have to squish it down. We have to medicate it. And this has been psychiatry and psychology for a long, long time. If I went to get meds right now, I would go, oh, you're feeling suicidal, take this med. Oh, you're feeling depressed, anxious, take this med. Or we just treat as if you have one personality and it's having problems. But I do like this concept of internal family systems, and Richard Schwartz is a main proponent of it. I don't know if he discovered it, or I don't think so. I think he's a proponent of it. Again, I'm not a trained certified psychologist. I just do psychology, right? I don't care for standard of care. I don't care for the certifications. I'm a little bit of a wild renegade. So I'm the Fool card in tarot. So, but the internal family systems theory as a psychological model purports that you have multiple personalities, but we're not talking MK Ultra, seriously damaged, harmed, seriously abused alters, where an alter is created, where you just flip into a different personality. What we used to call schizophrenia, we now call dissociative personality disorder. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the normal rest of us, and then we have many, many parts talking. This is basically the process of thinking. When you're thinking, like I just was recently thinking, do I want to take a 300-hour yoga teacher training course? Well, one part was saying, well, it's going to be expensive. Watch your money. Another part said, do you have the time to do that? Do you have the time? Make sure you have enough blank space in your life so you can rest and relax. Another part of me is like, go for it. It's your dream. You want to have that education so you can help others. It's only going to help your, the rest of you, da, 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 da. These are simply most likely parts of you that are talking to other parts, right? So I have notes here. I'm going to look down to make sure I don't miss anything. So one is saying one thing and one is saying the other thing. Remember that old adage? I think the Cherokee take credit. So many wisdom systems take credit for this story, the two dogs or the two wolves, where, one wolf is telling you to do something really bad and the other wolf's telling you to do something good. And the grasshopper says to the master of the sage, which one wins? And the sage says, well, the one you feed. And I've never been really crazy about that, because the one that's talking bad, trash talking on one shoulder, is might very likely be a part, my face is itchy, might very well be a part that's actually crying out for help or acting out because it's hurt and triggered and wants to talk and wants your company or wants some help or wants some assistance. So, I mean, if you want to use your will to squash down the bad wolf, it's probably just a part that's not bad. And Richard Schwartz's book called No Bad Parts, I like, because he ends up saying, and I agree, that there really are no bad parts. They're just functioning. They're just acting out of their experience. Kind of like the bully in school, there's that hermetic principle, as within, so without. The bully at school has been harmed at home. You bully so that you're not bullied. I remember in school, I remember many times in the bathroom from third grade to sixth grade, the big hefty girls would be in the bathroom. They'd want to beat me up. I was like this big. And they would want to beat me up. And a couple of times they shoved me up against the bathroom stall door and threw me against the wall. And I decided to be a bully too. I was either going to be bullied or be a bully to protect myself. So I became a bully in school. I'd punch girls and beat them up, so they wouldn't do it to me first. I have no desire to be a bully, but I didn't want to be bullied. I think our parts do that too. So sometimes they look bad. They feel murderous, suicidal. They want to abuse others. And it's not good behavior. It's very destructive behavior. But as we work with them and heal them, we realize they're not bad, they're just functioning, and they're just trying to protect you, the main personality. What do I mean by the main personality? I mean, this is the main tribe of parts that are mostly working together, but there are dissociated parts that are like, I'm not playing anymore. I got hurt, I've been betrayed, I've been left, I've been stolen from, I've been harmed, I've been abused, I've been betrayed. I've been left. I've been told I'm not worthy, I'm not good. I'm going over here. I think of Lord of the Rings. I think of them on their lonely little islands, and they form little cliques and tribes. And we're going to talk about that. So when we, feel any sort of emotion, challenging emotion, we feel perturbed, angry, enraged, upset. Like I said, it's usually these parts acting up because they're hurt. Okay. So for example, if you're afraid of public speaking, they say that public speaking is some people are more afraid of that than of death. I'm not. I'm a ham. I'm like, I have to get the shepherd's crook to get me off the stage. I'm like, blah, 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 blah. But, instead of hiding in the green room or running to the bathroom, you can actually take your will and your self-discipline and say, stop it, shut the hell up. I'm going out there and speaking. And you can squish these parts down. But how better would it be to actually talk to them about why they're afraid and talk to them and negotiate with them. So like I said, when we feel like we have this mono mind and we're acting up, when we're upset, we're anxious, we go get the Xanax, we go get the this, we go get the that. Why not talk to those parts that are acting out and healing them and helping them feel better and reintegrate? And then you won't have the anxiety. You won't need the Xanax. I'm not saying don't get your medication. This is not medical advice. I'm saying if you like, you can begin to work on your anxiety or whatever else you have going on, and perhaps, reduce your amount of medication you're using, right? So you want to hear some fun facts about parts? This is some fun stuff. Each part is its own personality. It's its own sacred and spiritual being. And we treat them as such. And when I talk to them, I honor them and I thank them for showing up. I thank them for being here. I thank them for taking care of the client this long. And I just simply explain to them, but now we're doing something different. These parts have executive agency. They have personal agency. And what I mean by that is They can run the personality. Let's say you're on a date and she's so terrible, he's so terrible, and you get up and leave the date. You've got your mad money, you get the car, you drive home, but you're so pissed off that she was doing such bad behavior, and you're annoyed. You're not going to see him, her ever again. That part that's acting out, that's in a rage, actually is able to get the keys out of the purse, out of your pocket, able to put the keys in the ignition and drive you home and open up your apartment, your home, and get in there and get a beer, crack a bottle of wine, and sit down and be met. So it has agency to take care of you. So in other words, it can run you, it can run the personality, it can run your body, it can run your avatar. The interesting thing is when we have, say, addictive behaviors, or we act out an awful lot, we're always in the drama, we talk about drama queens and drama boys, little boys, stuff like that. Those parts that are acting out, they kind of run the main personality, and they get all the wisdom and life experience at that time. And that's why when people are in AA, for example, and they stop drinking or they stop drugging and they start to get sober, their emotional maturity might go back to when they began the addictions, like when they're 20 and they need to grow up emotionally. They're a little behind the 8 ball. They're now 40, but they haven't been growing in 12 years because they've been, drinking or drugging, whatever they're doing. And God bless them. I'm just saying, you don't grow when your parts are acting out. Now, when we successfully reintegrate the parts, guess what? The main personality gets all their wisdom and their savvy and their understanding. The parts get to bring that wisdom to become sage advisors to the main personality. That wisdom isn't lost. When they're reintegrated, they learn to play with the rest of the part. They play with the rest of the people. They play well with others, and they rejoin the party, right? So it's interesting that they have the personal agency, so they can keep you from growing. But when they reintegrate, you have all that wisdom and savvy. And often I find that the wisdom the parts mostly offer is like protection or discernment, wisdom. They offer an ability to have fun, and they offer an encouragement for you to live your best self or to live your dream life. Okay, so let's listen to some other fun facts. So let's get to the fun facts part. So did you know that you can actually talk to the parts? You can talk to them. You can talk to them without my help, without reading a book. You can just simply say, hey, parts, let's talk. Can you come out? Can you come talk to me? And when I'm working with a client, I put them in a waiting room. Renee calls it a love bubble. I call it a waiting room. You can talk to them. You can have them wait and sit, and they're respectful, and they will. They're kind of honored usually to kind of go, well, you're calling me out. I exist. They're just delighted to be spoken to, and they're delighted to be treated with honor. Okay. So and did you know that they can talk to you? They can talk back in a good way. You can ask them questions and they can answer. You may not hear right away. You may not hear a voice in your head, but you might get an intuitive sense. So when I'm working with a client, I'll invite the parts to say, hey, if you have any insight you want to give to me that I can give to the client, I will do that. If you want to talk to the client right now, and I ask the client to be open to what they're hearing, they might just get an idea or a sense. It may not be the part going, I want this, I want a cookie, or I want you to protect me, I want you to love me, I want you to have more fun. It doesn't always work that way usually, or sometimes the insight comes later, right? Also, I often guide the clients on a meditation, and I invite the parts to come along, the parts that may have already reintegrated and the parts that haven't yet. It's really fun because they love that. They love being along, coming along for the ride. They get on the boat with us in the meditation, they go to the meadow, whatever we're doing, and they love it. And they usually reintegrate after that. It's really nice. Some don't. I don't fuss with it too much. I usually get most of them to join in a session or to join within the week. All right. So these, like I said, these are sacred and spiritual beings in their own right. Okay. They actually form cliques. We have names for them. Some we could kind of consider, like the drill instructor parts. They're the ones that tell you to knock it off, stick to it, suck it up. Who cares? Who cares if you're feeling emotional? Get back to work, And there are parts that are called exiles. These are the parts that we think are the hurt parts that are just, you can imagine them in their little self-imposed jail cells down this dark hallway, and they're all huddled in the corner maybe. And so sometimes these exiles, 1 or 2 of them will become protector parts. And they're in exile as well, but they protect the other exiles. So often you find you have to talk to all of the exiles through the protector. So you need to talk with and negotiate with the protector. And sometimes I invite the protector to bring its group, his or her group, into the main personality together. And I'll explain and comfort the protector by saying, you can still look out for these parts. You can be over there. And do you know that the parts can be educated? You can talk to them, you can teach them. I have an educational video I have my clients watch before quantum rewiring, and I know the parts are watching, the subconscious mind's learning. It's really fun. So you can, let's see. You can invite them to show up. You invite them to the waiting. I'm getting ahead of myself. You can invite them on a meditation. You can actually encourage the client to talk to them. You can encourage them to talk to the client, like I said. You can actually negotiate with them. You can ask them questions and get answers. I can muscle test to see how many parts are showing up. Sometimes there are other parts that are more shy and they show up later. We call them like waking up parts. So during a session, I'll say, are there any parts waking up? Because sometimes they're the more quiet parts. Imagine a clique of high school kids, and there's some more boisterous, rowdy ones that are doing the stealing, or they're the ones pushing back to the teacher or whatever, and they're protecting this little shy one. But then when they reintegrate back to the personality, or you go more mainstream, I guess, with the school system or something, the quiet, shy ones like, hey, I want the cookie. I want to steal the stuff from the store, and they wake up and they start to act out themselves, and they have to speak up. So you can still work with them as well. You can ask them to, you can negotiate with them. Sometimes I contract with them. Let's say someone has elbow pain. I work with the parts. I'm not saying this is solving everything. If you have elbow pain, by all means, go see a doctor. I'm just saying, I can also assist with mitigating or alleviating that pain, perhaps I talk to the parts that might be causing the pain. Sometimes we cause pain because we're like, they don't want you to be safe. They don't want you to go ride the horse. They don't want you to go do this. They want you to be safe. So they cause an injury so that you don't go out. And I can negotiate with them, but I find when I contract with them to say, hey, look, let's keep the client down to a 0 or 1 level pain if 10's the most pain and 0 or 1 is nothing. Can you contract with me that you're not going to cause any more than 1 pain? That's really dramatic change. So I find the client has a drastic change, like a big yank in their life, which is for their better good, but it's faster than more of a yank than they wanted. So, I have been discovering recently that when I ask the contract, I have to ask the client first, like, do you want gentle change or do you want anyway? So, when I lead the client on a meditation, like I said, I invite the parts along, and it's really great because I have the client, I'll have them seated in a quiet meadow or something like that, or have rowboated to a little island or something, and the parts are there, and I have them see the parts in their mind's eye coming over to them over the hillside or whatever, the parts that have reintegrated and the parts that might still be in the waiting room. I have them talk to the parts, and I have them say something like, thank you for taking care of me all this time. And thank you for being here. I honor you as a sacred and spiritual being. And just thank you so much for your care. And we're going to be doing things differently now. So I want to explain some things to you. Like, did you know, for example, that parts don't always know how old you are? Parts, I'm getting a little distracted, but I forgot this is a fun fact about parts. They often still think you're 5 or 8 or 12 when the trauma or the pain or the very bad memory or event happened. So they think they're protecting you. But I have the client say, hey, did you know that I'm 48 years old and I've been taking care of you all this time? I've been feeding you, and what you've been walking around in this avatar. I've been, in fact, taking care of you, and I'm going to be taking care of you. Then I have the client say something like, well, how can I take better care of you? What kinds of things can I do so that you stay with me? In other words, with the main personality. And I have them have that conversation. And then I have them ask something like, now, what can you do for me? And usually it's issues of, like I said before, protection, or encourage you to have fun, or give you wisdom and discernment about a particular topic. Like, don't go down that dark alley right now, something like that. So I find it just really, really fascinating. I think that I don't know how many parts there are. I'm getting Dr. Bradley Nelson talks about, in the emotion code, he talks about emotions. He says, often I'm in my 50s, right, for like 1 more month, that at my age, you might have a 350, 365, as many days in a year, number of challenging emotions. And there might be that many parts. I don't know. I would guess 200 to 350 parts as a tribe. And so parts pop off, but I do find, I can I've treated up to as many as 32 parts in a session and had them reintegrate. That causes the most transformation and the most drastic change. But I do strong medicine. Like, why are you here? Why are you paying me? Unless, let's get her done, right? But anyway, I find that when we work on a client's most pressing issue and we work on those parts, that those parts will mitigate the healing and the reintegration of those parts help other issues as well. So other areas clean up. So it's almost like the most pressing issue, the thing that's causing the most problems, is what the personality with the subconscious wants to work on next. And it knows, it has a wisdom that if it starts to dissolve those memory structures and those neural structures and heals the parts and reintegrates the parts, that it eases up on everything else. And I have another fun fact, which is you know, in the quantum rewiring, we work with the parts, but we also work with those painful memories and traumas. So I want to tell you, by the way, those parts are not the painful memories. It's not the same thing. They actually, I do think they actually carry those emotions and painful memories, those memory structures, those neural structures as actual burdens. They carry them in their little rucksacks. And so we help them release the burdens. And the practitioner helps dissolve those burdens, dissolve those memory structures, and we just dissolve it. And that's what we call quantum rewiring. We, through the quantum foam, over Zoom, through space, live and in person, on the phone, we can actually encourage the subconscious mind, the superconscious mind, to work with the parts and reintegrate them and to dissolve those painful memories. And then we install really good affirmations and really good stuff. That eases the burdens of the parts, and that eases up on them a great deal. So I think that's all I have. I probably missed some things here, but I wanted to point out that these fun things about the parts. You can actually read Richard Schwartz's book, No Bad Parts. He's got a meditation in there. I think the first one is working with a protector. I think he has a meditation on working with a protector. You could simply read his meditations into a recording device, listen to it, or read it through and remember it, and do this stuff and work on your own. You could even get together with a friend and script or help each other. So you're working in community. If it feels a little scary to be by yourself, you could do this by yourself. You could do it in community. You could hire someone. You could go to internal family systems therapists. There are many out there, and I hear they do really wonderful things. You could have a session with me where I do the energy work and the internal family system stuff. It doesn't matter, but I just want to bless you and give you instructions about those parts. They're sacred and spiritual beings. They have their own personal agency. They have their own personalities. They have their own pains and burdens. It's like you're a whole passel of many little mini-me's that are all different. And they love when they're recognized and brought out, and they're asked questions and they're honored. And they're very willing to work with the person. They don't really want to cause destructive behavior. That's just their functioning, like as if you're 5 years old. Like, how does a 5-year-old react when someone steals their cookie in kindergarten? They might punch the person. You know, they haven't been able to be taught or encouraged to grow. But instead of being controlled by the parts, you can actually coach them, mentor them, guide them, and love them and work with them. They're always there. They're always with you. They're not disappearing. It's like we talk about souls as a drop of water in the ocean. You never actually disappear. You just reintegrate and you add your wisdom to the main body of water. They're always there, and you can always talk to them. And as a matter of fact, I talk to my clients and say, hey, this week, if you like, talk to those parts and see how they're doing. How are they feeling? How's it going? What's going on? And you can simply, carry on that way. But anyway, it's been a blessing to talk to you. I will talk to you soon. Bye.